Right, okay, so I'm going to carry on the theme of sort of working tonally. So that's what I demonstrated the last couple of weeks. I'm going to carry that on. So it's really, in terms of subject matter, it's your own project, whatever you fancy doing. But if you did want to work just in light and dark, that's what I've been demonstrating and what I will carry on demonstrating. So the first week was, the first couple of weeks I've used charcoal and landscape first, then last week was portrait. And I was thinking perhaps use some sort of tonal wash. So this could be for watercolour or ink, whichever you prefer. If you want to do this, I brought a couple of examples along. So this one is just a purely black and white watercolour. So I did this partly. This is from one of my photos, and I wanted to just see if it would work really. So I did this quite a long time ago. But really, it's what the whites that you see are just the white of the paper, and then very, very pale washes here. That's the first wash. Then slightly darker again, and then perhaps that's even darker, and then this would be like the fifth tone. So there's probably about 5 different tones in there. I think it's a fantastic exercise. Most images you look at, they really work tonally before they start to work with colour. So it's really important to get a good arrangement of light and dark shapes, first and foremost, before you start thinking about colours. So that, as I say, a good exercise. That one was watercolour. This one is a mixture of inks and watercolours. Now this isn't completely tonal because there is a bit of colour here, but I've had this up in my office space, and I thought, well, actually that's pretty much a tonal image really. It's ink with a little bit of watercolour, but it really works on that kind of light and dark. You know, perhaps this being the lightest area, the sky a tiny bit darker, then probably this tone and that tone, and then into the tree tones. So again, 5 or 6 different tones. And you know, do plenty of these sort of exercises, and it really gets practiced in designing your images tonally. So that was Leon C. There's a few others here, but that's plenty to illustrate. So there's different ways of working. So actually, what I didn't mention about this. So this one, I use lines as well as washes. So the lines are all using like a dipper pen, so something like one of these bamboo pens. This is a pen, I've made these just out of garden bamboo. You can just get a Stanley knife and cut off its shape, and then they're good to go. It's quite hard to demonstrate this up here. I can have a go. I'll have a go on this actually. But what you find is that the ink doesn't want to come out of the pen very easily. That's not too bad actually. So I'm looking at this chap on the rock there. If you wanted, that's actually doing better than I thought it would. Yeah, it's hard to get the ink to run out of the pen if you've got it vertically. But perhaps if I had a bit more. I'll have a go though. So with the inks, the difference between ink and watercolour is some inks, but not all inks. Once they're dry, they are waterproof. So that means that once I've got the lines down, I use this one, and I'm not really sure if this will work or not. So I'm just trying to sketch the chap in. And then we've got all these different rocks. But on a bit of watercolour paper like this, where it's a little bit textured, it can kind of pick up the texture of the paper. Particularly as the ink's running a little bit dry, like that. So you can see it sort of gets a little bit grainy. You've got lots of ink in the pen, you get a more solid look. The other thing you can do is thin the ink with a little bit of water so that you've got a lighter grey line. So if I wanted some lines in the distance, say for the sea, I can make that a little bit lighter. And I think that can work quite nicely. You get quite a nice effect. If it was all the same density, that might look a little bit dull. Go back to the darker lines then. And then in the foreground, you've got these big kind of geometric shapes. Something like that. With cracks and lines running through them. So anything that's quite a linear subject, I think the pens can add a nice quality to it. So once I'm there, I'll now add some tones. So the C is going to be quite light, so keeping that and make that lighter still. Any areas that will be white, like around here, I'll just leave the paper white. I think this ink must be water soluble actually. I thought it might be. So that actually sort of bleeds. So that's that's one kind of ink you can get, it's kind of water soluble ink. Whereas others, the lines will stay there. You can add the colour over the top. Just go a little bit stronger here. Let's try some of this ink. I think this is more of a permanent ink, but it's just run out. I need to get the ink off of this. Yeah, it's a slightly different. This is a bit bluer, isn't it? So this is stronger, darker. So Indian ink, if you've got one that says Indian ink, the chances are that it's a waterproof ink. So once that's dry, those washes should stay in place. And then you can put other stuff over the top there. Okay. So I'll leave that at that. The other thing that somebody was asking about this morning was using like masking fluid. So again, just because I started a demo this morning, I thought I might as well just show you a bit of that. So I'll go back to the other image I was using. So I was using this image, and these areas of blue are where the masking fluid's gone. So I've used this one. I'll just show you how that works. You've got to be a little bit careful with masking fluid that it doesn't stick to the brushes. So I usually use like a cheap brush that I'm not going to worry too much about. This is just one out of a set. Some people say it's quite like washing up liquid and soap and things on them to stop the stuff sticking to the brush. But I find that if I just dampen the brush and then dry it, so it's just still a little bit damp, I've never had any problems with the brush then. So the thing is, you need to pop that on like that. You just want it to cover, but not be too, you don't want it too thick, otherwise it will take forever to dry. That needs to then dry completely, and then you can then add a wash over the top of that. So these areas here and here, I've already kind of put the wash over. That looks dry, I'll just do a little bit more wash there. I was using the brown ink for that one, so I'll go back to that. So I think this is an acrylic ink, so it should, I put on a bit earlier, so this should stay put. So we'll put that over, a bit strong, but yeah, that is, so the ink underneath is staying there, which is good. So I can pop that over like that. Just try and get a little bit more shadow going. So make these marks a little bit more textured. And then we can leave that to dry completely. Deliberately not gone on that bit, just so I can demonstrate that. But once it's completely dry, you should be able to just rub it like that. You do need to make sure it's absolutely dry. And then you're then back to the white of the paper. Whoops, I just smudged. So that's why you've got to wait till it's completely dry. But that bit there, that's what demonstrated. Back to the white of the paper, and then if you did want to just very slightly add any more tones in there. Just maybe add a tiny bit, break that up. Just suggest a look at the tree, perhaps a little bit of shadow on the side of that tree. So that can be quite effective. It is a bit slow though doing that. You've got to kind of pop stuff on, let it dry. Any questions? All good?
It looks like a lovely painting.
It's good fun to mess about. Yeah. And I think it's quite a nice material, nice things to buy really. Right, okay. Right,